You ever have one of those days where you just want to eat your sandwich in peace and suddenly you're witnessing a demolition derby in your front yard starring your neighbor? Yeah, that was me just minding my own business. Mayo dripping onto my shirt, bread still in my mouth when I look up, and there she is. Let's just call her Karen. Because honestly, what else would you call someone yanking your mailbox out of the ground like it's a buried treasure? Heels wobbling in my grass hair, set like a helmet, huffing like she was saving the block from a nuclear disaster, I'm halfway to a heart attack. Excuse me, are you stealing my mailbox? But she barely flinches, just snaps. It's an eyesore. The HOA voted. Yours isn't compliant. And she yanks again. She yanks. I'm standing there, sandwich still in hand, just taking in the sheer weirdness, like, is this really happening? She's dead serious too, not even blinking. That's when I realized she genuinely believes her little committee badge gives her the right to uproot federal property because it's not beige enough for her version of Stepford. Before I can say more, she's ripped the whole thing out, concrete base and all, dragging it across the sidewalk like she just conquered Rome. My mail, actual letters, and a package spilling out in the dirt. That was the moment I stopped seeing her as a nuisance and started seeing her as the opening act in a much bigger show. See, the thing about mailboxes, they're not actually yours. They belong to the United States Postal Service. Karen, in her role as neighborhood sheriff, had just declared war on the feds and hadn't the faintest clue. While she went on about property values and community standards, I just pulled out my phone, snapped some photos, her hands gripping the box, my mail in the dirt, scratches in the cement documenting every angle. She noticed and barked, "You can't take pictures of me without my consent?" I grinned. "It's not for me, it's for the postal inspector." That wiped the smirk off her face for a second, but then she doubled down. The HOA has jurisdiction. I don't care what the mail police say. Mail police, like, that's a real department. So I wave and stroll inside, already dialing the post office. I barely get out what happened before the woman on the other end goes from customer service friendly to deadly serious. "Sir, your neighbor removed your mailbox without authorization." That's a federal offense. Fines up to $50,000, $1,000. Even prison time. I nearly choke. 50 grand. Suddenly, I'm not feeling bad for Karen, remembering her smug face, the way she looked at me like I was crazy for objecting. Nope, not even a little bit. Next morning, a shiny USPS car rolls up. Man in a sharp uniform steps out, clipboard in hand, and starts inspecting the scene hole in my yard mail everywhere, Karen's muddy heel prints leading to ground zero. Naturally, Karen comes flying out of her house, all smiles, and I'm the head of the aesthetics committee. That mailbox was non-compliant. I removed it. The inspector doesn't miss a beat. "Ma'am, did you personally remove this federally owned mailbox?" "Yes, I did. You're welcome." The guy just nods, scribbles something down. "Thank you for your confession." Karen's smile freezes. "Confession? What do you mean?" He adjusts his sunglasses. "Tampering with or removing a mailbox is a federal crime. You'll be receiving notice of violation and potential fines." I swear the color just drained out of her faster than a bathtub. Karen starts stammering about HOA bylaws, but the inspector cuts her off. "Ma'am, the HOA has no authority over federal property. You're personally liable." That's when I knew she'd finally hit a wall even her arrogance couldn't bulldoze through. But the best part, that was just the first act. A few days later, the HOA slides a letter under my door on fancy cream paper with a big logo, legal-sounding nonsense mixing with the kind of condescension only someone drunk on a little power can muster. According to them, my unauthorized mailbox removal had created a visual disruption, and unless I installed one of their approved eyesores within 30 days, I'd face $500 a day fines. I could almost see Karen in her kitchen glass of boxed wine in hand, congratulating herself on fixing the problem she'd caused. But here's the thing, most folks would freak out, rush to Home Depot, and buy whatever hideous mailbox the HOA demanded. I'm not most folks. See, I had something the HOA didn't, official paperwork from the USPS, stamped and signed confirming they were investigating my neighbor for a federal crime. So I taped the HOA's letter to the fridge and waited. Didn't write back, didn't give them the satisfaction, just let them stew. A couple days later, 2 USPS inspectors show up, clipboards thicker than a phone book. They walk right up to Karen's house. From my window, I watch her put on a whole show, hand waving, pointing at my yard, looking like she's running for office. The inspectors don't even blink, just hand her a packet and leave. Minutes later, my buddy down the street calls, barely able to talk through his laughter. She's screaming on the phone, man. Just realize it's not an HOA thing. It's federal. She keeps yelling, "You can't find me that much," and slamming doors. By dinner, the whole block's buzzing. A few days later, one of the board members, Steve, the nervous one, catches me taking out the trash. Maybe we went too far. Just forget about that letter, all right? I tilt my head. The one threatening me with $500 a day. He laughs nervously. It's just, standard language. Nothing personal, just extortion. He gives me a weak grin and scurries away. That's when I realize they're scared. Not of me, of the fallout. Karen had dragged the HOA so deep into her mess they couldn't dig themselves out. But Karen, she's not one to back down. The next morning, she plants a brand new mailbox on my curb, one of those gaudy HOA-approved nightmares, beige and gold, with a crooked eagle on top, leaning like it's embarrassed. She knocks on my door, all smiles. Problem solved. You should be thanking me. I just look at the mailbox, then at her. You do realize that's evidence, right? Her smile fades. Evidence of what? Federal mail tampering, destruction of property, installation of an unauthorized receptacle. Take your pick. For the first time, I see her blink, the cracks showing. That afternoon, the inspectors come back. I show them the monstrosity in one size. Sir, we'll handle this. Within a week, Karen gets an official $50,000 fine from the USPS. My neighbor texts me a blurry photo of the notice. Karen, the one who bragged about never paying a late fee, now owed more money than some people make in a year. But does she back down? Of course not. She hires a lawyer, a cheap one, judging by the suit, and opens the door to discovery. See, when you start a lawsuit, everything comes out, emails, meeting notes, the whole shebang. Turns out Karen had been pestering the HOA for months, sending all caps rants, photos of everyone's yards, threats to personally enforce rules if the board didn't act. The board ignored her. She wasn't following orders, she was acting solo, and the HOA's threats to me were just damage control. The whole neighborhood starts gossiping, but me, I'm just watching the drama unfold. Like it's the best reality show I've ever seen. One night, Steve comes over, reading through the discovery docs, shaking his head. She's been threatening to repaint people's doors. Showed up at a neighbor's house with a roller once. I blink. And you let her stay on the board? He shrugs. She's exhausting, man. Easier to placate her than fight. But now, this might finally be what ends her. But Karen, she thrives on chaos. Organizes an emergency HOA meeting, packs the room, delivers a speech about government overreach. I raise my hand. Quick question. How exactly is the Postal Service overstepping their authority when mailboxes legally belong to them? The room cracks up. Karen glares, hisses about technicalities. That's what you're calling federal law. The board adjourns early. Karen storms out. Court day. Her lawyer tries to argue HOA supersedes federal law. The judge, not amused, cuts him off. Are you seriously suggesting a homeowners association supersedes federal law? Karen shouts about neighborhood aesthetics, gets a warning for contempt. My turn. I lay out the facts, show the photos, present the HOA letter, the writings on the wall. Then the neighborhood splits. Karen's handful of loyalists versus everyone else, finally sick of her bullying. Even kids make jokes about mailbox-gate. Me, I'm just sipping coffee, watching Karen's empire crumble. But of course, she's not done. One morning, police cruisers and a tow truck show up. Karen in her robe waving wildly. He's harboring stolen federal property. Officer asks for proof of ownership. No one owns the mailbox. It's federal property. But I've got proof of destruction and tampering. The officer flips through my documents, hands them back. Ma'am, filing a false report is a crime. I suggest you stop before you dig deeper. Karen's face turns tomato red. She sputters, stomps, and the officers leave. A couple days later, Karen shoves flyers in every mailbox accusing the USPS of tyranny, the HOA of cowardice, me of being an instigator. She calls for a rally in the park, brings her cousin, the constitutional expert, who works at a tire shop. He rants about founding fathers in mailboxes, admits he's never read the law. Kids film TikToks, neighbors laugh, Karen's left screaming at the sky. That's when the HOA finally cracks, calls an emergency meeting, files for a restraining order, schedules a vote to remove her from the board. Night of the vote, the community center is packed. Karen struts in, clipboard in hand. She's met with boos and laughter. The motion is read, the ballots cast. The result, 85% vote to remove her. For once, she's speechless. Then she erupts, swears she'll sue everyone, is escorted out by security. By the next morning, Mailbox Karen meltdown is trending. Even the local news picks it up. The neighborhood breathes easy. People put up decorations, mailboxes pop up in every color. The HOA quietly admits she was their biggest headache. But I know Karen's not the fade into the background type. The fine still looms. The lawsuits drag on. That's when she makes her final reckless move, shows up in my yard at night with 2 supporters armed with tools, ready for round 2. I record everything, call her out, "You're trespassing." About to commit a second federal crime on camera. She hesitates. But just as the sledgehammer lifts, the street explodes in flashing red and blue police everywhere. Karen's arrested, her supporters scatter. By dawn, she's the headline for all the wrong reasons. The lawsuits fizzle, the fine stands, the HOA bans her for life. The neighborhood finally thrives. Kids chalk the sidewalks. Folks plant whatever flowers they want, and I polish my mailbox every weekend. A quiet little victory. The USPS inspector even jokes, "Ever thought of running for the board?" "Not a chance," I tell him. I like winning from the sidelines. And that's how it all went down. No shouting, no tantrums, just patience, a little paperwork, and the faith that arrogance always trips itself up in the end. The lesson: sometimes all it takes to topple a little tyrant is a mailbox, a camera, and a community tired of being pushed around. So what do you think, was justice served, or did Karen just get what she'd been handing out for years? Let me know in the comments below, because this neighborhood story, trust me, is far from over.